penalized by the league as they continue to investigate allegations of domestic violence against him. And Stephen Jones of the Cowboys getting a little impatient.
These things are tough for everybody. It's tough for the league. It's tough for the team. It's tough for the player. And I think at some point you should be able to get the information in some sort of time frame that it doesn't carry on like this particular investigation has. So I would hope as a league, just like we do everything else, that we look for ways to get more efficient and to do things in a better way. I'm not being critical.
Obviously, he would like to know sooner rather than later. Adam Schefter and I are joined by Todd Archer, our Cowboys reporter from the Oxnard facility where the Cowboys are doing training camp. Adam, let's start with you. When do you think Dallas will know something?
Trey, it's not going to be today. The league will not have an answer on Ezekiel Elliott at any point today. I think we're back on the clock tomorrow. And the reason this is taking so long, there are a couple of reasons behind it. Number one, the league wants to be thorough and make sure that it handles this in the way that it feels is appropriate and right. The other thing is Ezekiel Elliott and his representatives were not always very quick to turn over the materials that the NFL requested all along, which delayed this process. Had he turned that over quicker, maybe we would have had an answer sooner. But because of that, we are where we are today, which is no answer today. Anything is possible for the rest of the week.
All right, Todd, we heard what Stephen Jones had to say. What are players and coaches saying about the cloud that's holding over Ezekiel Elliott right now?
They're largely ignoring it, and they're going on. If Ezekiel Elliott's out here on the practice field, he'll be out there when they start the season September 10th. I've asked a number of players about how Elliott's been handling all the swirling headlines around him so far. He's not spoken with the media since the start of training camp, and the players and the coaches keep saying the same thing. They don't see any effect of all these talks affecting him on the field. He's still the same guy in the meetings, on the field, doing everything he's supposed to be doing, and he's planning on as if he will be able to play a full season as well.
All right, let's assume, for the sake of this next question, that he won't be on the field for a full season. What are the contingency plans that the Cowboys have? They have a great offensive line. They added depth at the running back situation with Ronnie Hillman. What is their plan, assuming he misses 1, 2, or even more games?
Well, Darren McFadden right now is their backup running back. He had 1,089 yards in 2015 when Tony Romo started and finished just 2 of the games with McFadden as the Cowboys lead back. So he's an option. Alfred Morris played well in the Hall of Fame game as well, but really has been relegated to the fourth tailback. Rod Smith, Jalen Smith's brother, he's done a nice job in camp. He does more special teams, can do more things in the passing game than Alfred Morris. Part of me wonders if Elliott is not suspended, is if Alfred Morris is someone that the Cowboys look to move and trade to find maybe a pass rusher, a low-level pass rusher to help their rotation. But the Cowboys feel confident in all of the running backs that they have and believe they'll be able to run the ball effectively. Clearly not as good as if Elliott was on the field, but good enough to still win some games.
All right, Todd, thanks very much, and we'll see what happens as we continue to wait, along with the Cowboys, to find out what the NFL's decision will be. Todd said the Cowboys are going to run, and they certainly ran very effectively last year. Jason Garrett and company ran the ball by design on the highest percentage of plays in the NFL, 24 scores on the ground, which trailed only the Buffalo Bills. And Elliott, of course, rushed for over 1,600 yards, the third most by a rookie in NFL history. For more on what's happening with Ezekiel Elliott, or what hasn't happened so far, I guess, would be the best way to describe it, let's go inside the red zone here on NFL Live. Herm, it's pretty clear that Zeke is a huge part of what the Cowboys want to do offensively. As a head coach, when do you need to know whether or not he's going to be there for the first couple weeks of the season?
You'd like to know about a month ago, but that's not the answer you're getting right now. And you're preparing right now as if he's not going to be available for the first game. And you have to know that, because the longer this thing takes, the more concerned you become as a coach and as an organization. I will say this about the league. We've had some domestic violence troubles earlier where they didn't do their due diligence. Now they're going to the extreme of making sure they have everything in place so they can come up with a good judgment. The league is not about taking star players off the field. They don't want to take players off the field. But
People in New England would disagree with that.
Well, I'm just saying, they're not in the business of doing that. But with that being said, as a coach right now, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm nervous. And I'm not saying anything, but I'm telling my staff, let's get these other guys
despite
ready.
the fact that Jerry and Stephen Jones both have said that they're not expecting a suspension.
Yeah, they're saying
Still nervous, huh?
I'm nervous.
It's not their call. You know, that's the biggest line. Josina, what about the idea that Herm brought up here? Obviously, the Ray Rice situation was bungled by the league. Do you think that's part of why it's taking so long to figure this out?
I think there are a lot of things that are impacting the length of time that this investigation is taking. I mean, we're talking about 14 months now.
Yeah, people need to remember this. It wasn't this spring. It was the year before, the spring before he ever played a snap in the NFL.
Yes, I mean, and there have been a myriad of things that have happened in that time that have also brought new light to things that you have to consider when it goes back to February and this alleged victim claims that, he hurt his shoulder, and then you have the nightclub incident, you have the incident at St. Patrick's. So there are things that have happened as well. But I think what is also impacting the length of time is you wonder how much the league is concerned about how the victim may speak up and what her legal strategy is, the PR aspect of this, and how much that's, impacting how long this is taking, how concerned they are about the optics of this. Could something else come out after they make a decision and then make them look bad because,
Again, it's an alleged victim at this point.
Excuse me, alleged victim, because what we tend to talk about are the things that are in the news that we know. What we don't talk about are the things that get said behind the scenes and that you hear and that you may be afraid that may come to the surface.
The league is being very careful and taking its time, but let's also go beyond that with whatever the league decides to do here, because there's been a pattern of behavior. You mentioned some of those incidents. You left out speeding, and it's just speeding, but it's 100 miles an hour where he was charged with a misdemeanor. So we've got a misdemeanor speeding charge. We've got pulling down a girl's shirt. We've got a nightclub incident. We've got who knows what else. And so there's a pattern of behavior that has emerged that I can tell you has certain people in and around that organization concerned about him and how he'll react and behave in the future. And they know that he's got the potential and talent to be a world-class running back and a superstar athlete. But he must make better decisions. He must exercise better judgment. And he hasn't done that through his first season in the NFL.
And just to clarify something about the speeding, that wasn't just like, he was going 60 and a 40. He was going over 100 miles an hour on a very, very crowded road, the North Dallas Toll Road, that I think all of us have driven on at some point. So it's not, it was doing 50 and a 35. This was a significant speeding issue.
Yeah, look, and Adam said it. There's a pattern here. And organizationally, you understand the pattern. You have enough information to do something on your own without the league being involved in this. There are consequences. And I think this young man hasn't faced those consequences yet in his life. And I think if you're an organization, you can make your own decision and say, hey, this behavior is not what we're about, and we're going to do something about it.
Well, there's one other thing I want to clear up, Adam, with you, because you've said all along you were hearing a 1 to 2 game suspension.
Well, again, there are people who are bracing.
Yes.
There were people in and around his camp who were bracing for that.
My question then becomes, according to the new policy that was unveiled after all of the Ray Rice situation, and it was this, then it was this, then it was something else, baseline domestic violence calls for a 6-game suspension.
Again,
if it's domestic violence.
Correct. They can decide that some of his violations violate the personal conduct policy and give him whatever they believe is appropriate. And we don't know how this is going to come out. We don't know the findings that have come out of this investigation that has cost the league hundreds of thousands of dollars, that has resulted in a report that's over 100 pages. We don't know what's going to be in there, but the league has a couple of different ways it could go with this. There might not be enough evidence to prove domestic violence, so then you look at a different area.
Personal conduct policy.
Personal conduct policy, and what do you decide to do with that?
I just thought it was important to bring that out because it was an allegation of domestic violence that started this whole thing, and they had the baseline suspension.
And I just wanted to say, just even from conversations that I've had, people around Ezekiel Elliott have been very adamant that in their belief and in their estimation that there has been no domestic violence here. They will point to the affidavits, the witnesses, the evidence that has shown people trying to conspire to make it look like a certain way. So they're very adamant about that. They're very adamant about how he was raised. But on the other hand, when you look at the incident that happened in the Dallas nightclub, and then the police, investigation being suspended and going away, and you look at incidents where there's a little smoke and you're just wondering how's that going away, and people forgetting addresses and things like that, things that you hear behind the scenes. Those are the things that then point back to the personal conduct policy, particularly with what happened on the St. Patrick's Day.
Which gives us the gray area where the NFL can decide to do what they want when they decide what is going to happen.